You're listening to this week's episode of the Vacation Rental Business in Today's World podcast. You're about to start transforming your business and life with the information found here. We interview some of the greatest and most influential minds in the vacation short-term rental industry and supporting businesses. The information found here is a combination of brain science, transformational thinking, safety and loss prevention, and vacation short-term rental knowledge and experiences, all rolled into one to help you and your business to achieve levels you never thought possible. I am glad you are here, and now please welcome your host, Eric Thibodeau.
Good morning, Durk. How are you doing?
Doing great, Eric. Good morning. How are you today?
We're doing well. We're here in Gulf Shores, Alabama, working in our business and taking care of our properties. Where are you at?
So I'm in a little community called Seabrook, Washington, out on the Washington coast, and it's a community that is designed specifically around vacation rentals and second homes, vacation homes, and it's designed to be a walkable community. So you park your car and you walk down to the downtown and to the restaurants and to the beach and all sorts of hiking and biking trails and all sorts of things of that nature. So it's a great spot to be.
It definitely sounds like a great spot to be. So
yeah.
Well, great.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for agreeing to participate with us today in this summit and vacation rental business in today's world. And we're going to talk a little bit about vacation rentals and housekeeping, but I'd like you to give...
Love housekeeping. All excited for that.
Oh, I know you're always excited about housekeeping. It's the... yeah. Give us a little update about your background and some of your experiences in vacation rentals.
Yeah, so, October 1st, 2001 is when I became the Assistant Director of Housekeeping for Deer Valley Lodging in Park City, Utah. And after one day on the job, I would have changed every single housekeeping department that I had managed prior to that. And since then, I've fully embraced the vacation rental housekeeping and all the knowledge and information and ability to care for properties. And so I love cleaning up other people's messes, and I love helping those individuals or such as yourself be able to understand the housekeeping principles and be able to take care of their properties.
Great. Yep. We certainly have employed some of your training and information in the last couple of years since we've started managing vacation rentals as a business. But do you own any vacation rentals yourself?
I do not. We're working towards that. We'll have, hopefully here in the next couple of years, we'll have our first one purchased. We would like to have one down in where you're at, down in Gulf Shores, Orange Beach. And then I have a couple other locations that I would like to have one purchased, but all in due time. Great.
And so the vacation rental business, did you start it, was it, this was your objective when you started in this business, or it just kind of happened?
No, it just happened. So prior to the vacation rental, I'd been doing hotels and bed and breakfasts, and we were living in my wife and I were living in Southern Utah, and I had just lost my employment. And we looked at each other and said, we're tired of living here in the desert. And now we look back on that decision and say, what were we thinking? But at the time we said, we're tired. We want to go back to Four Seasons. And so I applied at a couple of different places in Park City, Utah, and went in for an interview. And the gentleman said, you're not a good fit for me. However, I know another spot where you might be a good fit. He took me down to the housekeeping department for Deer Valley Lodging, and I interviewed and received the employment. And then from there, I had a good boss that taught me, and the company that allowed me to attend different conferences and learn and grow. And so it's all by happen chance. I don't know of many people who on the elementary school playground will turn around and say, I want to grow up and be a housekeeper. It's always something more different. And so mine was pure happen chance. And, I've been able to travel a lot. I've been able to travel the world. I've been able to do all sorts of those things because of my expertise in housekeeping.
Yeah, great. And this, what we're going to talk about, your housekeeping in today's world, and this could be 1 to 2 day class. I mean, and you've done
Could
some
be.
of these classes and continue to do them. But let's touch on some of the key points in there in housekeeping. So we hear different
Yeah.
words associated with housekeeping, like cleaning and sanitizing and sterilizing, but those are not. They're not all the same. Can you tell us what's the difference and what we should be doing in our vacation rentals?
Yeah, no, it's a great point. There's essentially for us. I mean, we for us there's essentially three definitions for us to be aware of, as you described: it, sanitization, and disinfection. When we clean a surface, it essentially means we're removing the dirt and grime. However, the microbes and viruses are still present. And when I sanitize, so clean is the first level, and then I sanitize is the next level. And sanitize means that I reduce the number of viruses or bacteria or microbes on the surface, thus reducing the likelihood that I will get sick. And then the next level is disinfection. And disinfection means that the product has been tested against a specific virus or microbe or bacteria, and it requires a dwell time to be able to disinfect. So that means you can only disinfect hard surfaces, whether that be countertops, tabletops, hardwood floors, tiled floors, concrete, painted walls, those types of things. I can disinfect and then sanitize. I can sanitize carpet, couches, throw rugs or large area rugs. And so it's important that as we select our cleaning product, particularly in this COVID-19 environment, that we make sure that we have a product that can address that and that we know the limitations of that product.
Yeah. So what exactly is dwell time? I heard you mention that.
Yeah, dwell time is where I take the product and I spray it on the surface, and then the product sits on the surface as a wet product. It doesn't evaporate. All products evaporate, so you want to make sure that it's wet on the surface. And some products have a 30-second dwell time. Some products have a 30-minute dwell time. And so as long as the surface is moist, then the product can get in and break down and kill the viruses. And then I also suggest that not only does the product you have kill the viruses, but that it also breaks down the body oils and soap scums and all those other things of that nature.
Right. So spray and wipe just doesn't always work, right? We need to understand the products we're using.
We have to understand the products, right? Because the goal is to spray and wipe, and not all products are a spray and wipe. And we want to make sure that we have those products in our cleaning arsenal, so that we are able to address and work with them. And then we also want to make sure that we understand, can the product that I'm using on the hard surface as a disinfectant, can I spray it on the soft surfaces as a sanitizing product? And so that's one less product to carry. What's the availability of the product? What personal protective equipment do I have to use with the product, and all those things that go into that. So, it's almost like we're an artist or a scientist in many ways. What product do I use where, and how do I use it, and how do I make sure that it can accomplish the tasks I need that I have as a cleaning professional to clean the property and have it ready for the next guest.
Yeah, so I know we can always work with the rep who's selling us the products. That's a good start. But I mean, we really need to understand the chemicals that we're using. So these things called safety data sheets. Can you talk about that and why we need to understand those?
Yeah, absolutely. So the safety data sheets talk about where the product was manufactured. They talk about the first aid. They talk about how it's supposed to be stored. And then Section 8 is the one that I always bring people draw their attention to, because that talks about the personal protective equipment that's necessary to use the product. I like picking on aerosol oven cleaner, because generally it says chemical resistant impervious gloves, as well as splash goggles and a face shield. And so you want to know what PPE you have to have as those products are used. And again, coming back to the aerosol of the oven cleaner, I mean, if it says chemical resistant impervious gloves and splash goggles and face shield, I would be suggesting finding a different product to work with in your ovens.
Right, exactly. Because the safety data sheet's really talking about how we're going to store the material, how we're going to use the material, what do we do when we have a problem, and as you mentioned, PPE, so the personal protective equipment, it's really our last line of defense. So let's talk about what are some of the basic PPE that some of the employees or contractors that are working with the products need to use.
Yeah, sure. So before we move on to PPE, I would like to say one other thing about the safety data sheet, and that is if you have a janitorial supply company that brings a sample on, you want to make sure that they bring the safety data sheet with you, because once a product comes on property, you're responsible to have that. And then you want to do an audit once a year to ensure that your safety data sheet binder is up to date. And I would suggest that everybody have two binders, one out for everybody to see and use, and then one locked up or in an office somewhere. So if the one in the public area gets taken to the clinic, then you can simply pull the other one out and put it out and be compliant. From a personal protective equipment standpoint, the general personal protective equipment, I would recommend everybody have, again, obviously you're going to look at your safety data sheets, but you're going to have gloves, whether that's a latex or some other glove for people to use. You're going to have safety glasses or splash goggles, depending on the product. And then you will also have, some may require aprons. Some states, like the state of Oregon, requires that an air mask, a dust mask be available. And so you need to know your state regulations as you do that. Those would be the basic ones that I would start with. As you start, and there's all sorts of other safety PPE, right? You have your closed-toed shoes that fall into that category. Some products may be better to have a long sleeve shirt versus a short sleeve shirt, and then you have your training of how to take gloves on and off and how to use the personal protective equipment.
Right, and the standards you mentioned, it's the OSHA's hazard communication standard that requires us to do this annual review of our products and make sure we have the safety data sheets available, and we train our personnel that are using these chemicals. And
yeah, absolutely. And that would be the hazardous communication plan. OSHA has a template that you can use. So you just fill out the italicized and bold words. And then page 4, if your safety data sheet binder is up to date, page 4 is real simple, because you just copy what's in your safety data sheet binder onto page 4 and you're good to go. And you're right, as part of the training for employees, is how do I, here's the product, here's the safety data sheet, here's how the communication plan works, here's the stuff you need to know. If you're working with contractors, well, then all of that training from a cleaning product standpoint is on them, because that's their responsibility.
That's correct. That's correct. And good point about the different states, because different states have specific OSHA plans that are more stringent than the national. And
they do. The state of Washington is one of those. They have a higher standard than OSHA does, than the federal OSHA. OSHA's federal anyway. I guess my tongue was tied there. Anyway, so yeah, you want to make sure that you understand that. Again, state of Oregon, when I reference the dust mask, they have a specific verbiage that is supposed to go next to the dust mask. And so, reaching out to your local state agency, and even OSHA has this where you can reach out to them and say, hey, are you willing to come and help me to make sure I'm compliant? And so you can call them up, they'll have an agent come out, they'll go through it, and they'll say, this is where you're deficient, this is what you need to work with. And one of the really good things about this is it's a get out of jail free card. So if during that time you're working with that agency to improve, if someone comes up and turns you in or I'm speaking too quickly here. So two things here. So if I reach out to the agency and say, hey, come help me, I don't know if I'm compliant or not, and what do I need to do to be compliant, they will come assist you. And then if the other hand shows up to do an audit, this hand will reach out to the other side and say, you know what, I'm working with them to be compliant. And so it will stay the audit until until this side has completed its work. And so it's really handy to have them come in and work with you and do that.
I agree. And then, the other thing about PPE, OSHA also has a standard, for personal protective equipment, and you can do what's called a hazard assessment. And then it helps you determine what's the best PPE based upon the products you're using or the work environment you're in. So those are really good as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so PPE's there, and it's kind of the last line of defense. But if we backed up to the beginning, so you've referenced before a standard property appearance, and how does that tie into how we do housekeeping? And it seems like if I did one of these for one of my properties, then I would understand where everything went, what cleaning products I needed, what are my hazards, etc. It seems like it would be a good plan.
Yeah, so the standard property appearance is a global standard. It's a brand. You think of your cleaning professionals, and you're entrusting them with your brand because they're going to stage the property, they're going to clean the property, and then depart, and then that's what the guest is going to walk into. And so the standard property appearance is a way to articulate and present the brand, your brand, to the cleaner so they can then stage the property. So it talks about how towels are folded, how beds are made, where the remote controls go, where the guest amenities go. All of those details are presented in this document. And I'm a fan of a photo on one side with words on the other. That way the photo shows what it's supposed to look like, and then the words explain what's going on there. It takes both from my purview to get the best presentation. And so that way, now that you have that document created, now you have a standard that you can hold your housekeepers accountable to. And if you have inspectors, hold them accountable to, because this is the standard. Now there's it doesn't go here, or in this property it goes there. You have this global standard that everybody worked towards. Now you may have some owners that have a different standard. They may have a clock or a blanket or something of that nature that they always want in a specific location. And so then you could have an addendum per property for each of those that you could then have the cleaner look at that addendum to make sure that those specific items are where they need to be. But again, the standard property appearance is all about your brand. It's about your standard. And then it gives the target for the cleaning professionals to work towards. That's
great. And we're working to implement that during our off season here. So we're looking forward to getting that in place.
Good. And if I may, it's not as hard, while it is extremely detail oriented.
Right.
If you have your digital device and, a word processor, whether that's Microsoft Word or Google Docs, you can create your own standard property appearance. It doesn't have to be super fancy. And then once you've created it, I would, on all the pictures, watermark them with your logo. That way your competition can't come along and say, ooh, this is really good, and take all the work you've done and apply it to them. That way, if they do end up, because things have a tendency to travel around, that way they know whose it is, because you've watermarked the photos.
Yeah, right. And it's a good point. We'll certainly do that. And we'll also look at, I believe in, done is better than perfect. So getting these
yes
out there, right?
Absolutely. That's it. Perfection is the enemy of done.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's been a good mantra of mine for the past couple of months. And sometimes it's easier said than done.
For sure. So we've talked about standard property appearance and housekeeping, and then in your experiences, after you go, I'll tell you what we found. But housekeeping sometimes is overlooked as for property managers, and talk about that a little bit.
Totally is. It totally is. you think, again, you go back to the standard property appearance when I said, the housekeepers are responsible for the brand. The cleaning professionals own the brand. I agree that the owners and the property managers can provide guidance and dictate what the brand is. However, if the cleaning professional is not articulating or presenting or cleaning to that standard, well, that's the standard when the guest walks in. And we want to make sure that we have the best cleaners that we can have. We want to make sure that we provide again, I'm talking from an employee standpoint. If you have employees, you want to make sure that you have good training, that you have a good interview process, you have a good onboarding process, you have a good ad out there that presents what you're looking for. I'm a fan that I look more interested in attitude and aptitude than I am in the skill, because I can train somebody how to clean. From a contractor standpoint, you want somebody that embodies your customer service. You want somebody that is going to look at your standard and say, yes, I can do that. Because as a contractor, they become an extension of your company. And so we want to make sure that we compensate our cleaners appropriately, that we be kooky and crazy. Again, from an employee standpoint, I'm all about taking a spray can of gold spray paint and spray painting a plunger or spray painting a toilet brush and having a traveling weekly award that I hand out. This week you won the golden plunger, and this week you won the golden toilet brush. All those things of that. You do something kooky and crazy and fun, because a housekeeper's world is a negative world. The housekeeper didn't do this, or the housekeeper did that, and the housekeeper stole my dirty underwear, the housekeeper stole my, whatever. And so we want to make sure that we are able to provide a positive environment for our cleaners. As I'm not saying we shouldn't hold them accountable. I'm saying that as good managers, we should be a good coach. We praise and we compliment. And then we turn around and we also hold people accountable as we do their work.
Well said. And I also believe, we got to give them some positive reinforcement, some positive thanks. Because you're right. It's always your business is always picking up, and sometimes it's not always great stuff.
No, it's not. And it's not. And sometimes people have bad days. And so that's why it's real important that we go around and we see our cleaners in the morning, and we see our cleaners in the property, and we just stop in to say hey and see how they are. You think of your personal bank account where there's credits and debits. You make deposits to put money in, and you make withdrawals to take money out. Us as individuals are the same way. We have an emotional bank account, and the deposits are the attaboys, the kudos, the compliments, and the withdrawals are, you need to do better today. And, as people, we always focus on the negative things that are said to us. So we, as owners and managers, and as people and as individuals that oversee people, we need to make sure that we provide that environment where they remember the compliments and accept the course corrections for what they are, which is to help them improve. And that takes a lot of work.
It does.
A lot of work. It's not just a casual, hey, how are you today? While there are days where that is acceptable, you have to sit and work with the individuals to help them know that you really do care about them and that you are interested in their success.
Exactly. And housekeeping, we don't talk about maybe enough about how important it is for our business. We have picked up new clients solely because of housekeeping, where they've said, hey, this company's not doing it and you're more expensive, but I need a good cleaner and I need a good property to represent me and my brand.
Absolutely. You think of the work and effort it goes in to purchase the asset that has been entrusted to us. And so here we are entrusted with this asset, and housekeeping and maintenance are all an integral part of that. And then we have to think about how we communicate what we're doing to the property owners. Is there a a summary that I send them mid-month. Is there something else that I should be doing with them to help them understand the challenges and what we're doing to succeed? The owner's statement that the owners receive should be a review of what we've already told them during the month. That way there's no surprises. Well, there's always somebody who forgets you told them, or you forget to do something. So, it's not a perfect piece. However, we want to have a good enough relationship that when we do stumble on both sides, that, we have enough credibility to work through that to keep going.
Right. So housekeeping is a competitive advantage.
Totally. Absolutely. And that's why again, I'm talking as employees. From an employee's perspective, we want to be an employer of choice. We want to have a good environment. We want to pay well. We want to have good incentives. We want to do all of those things so that we attract the best cleaners in the community to be with us. And then from a contractor standpoint, again, we want to be an employer of choice from a contractor standpoint, so we attract the best contractors to come and clean for us.
So how's COVID impacted the vacation rental business?
Well, so let's stay on this housekeeping vein if we can for just a moment. I think it's done wonderful things from a housekeeping environment because it has allowed companies to talk about the great effort that they put into their cleaning. It's allowed the housekeeping to become a part of the marketing plan, and to help cleaners and companies and people know that, hey, this particular segment is important. And to me, that's the best part about it. Now, it's terrible.
For sure.
No mistake, the pandemic has ravished and created all sorts of issues, particularly with companies closing or people losing their jobs and some people losing loved ones or friends. And that is the terrible side of this. From a work environment, it's allowed us to focus on the cleaning and to talk about the good things that we do and to show and to give credit to the work that we do, because a lot of the companies that I know of already had great housekeeping departments, already had these processes in place. And so they were able to make minor adjustments to the COVID and to adjust that.
So in today's world, owners and property managers need to be highlighting that what they're doing in housekeeping in preparation for COVID in their market.
Absolutely. I would even go so far as to every property manager should have a blog page or a web page that talks about what they're doing. I call this "Tell Your Own Story." That way, you're able to have a timeline of what you've done, what you've worked on, what training you've received, what training your staff has received. I mean, if you're meeting with your local janitorial supply company to check with, or to test a new product, or to, establish a new relationship, you should have a picture of that. Talk about what you learned and what you're doing. Again, if you don't tell your story, someone else is going to tell it for you, and it'll have an ending that you don't want to have. And that's why it's real important to start and to have this blog or this web page that presents those items.
I agree. So what are some of the opportunities or challenges that are being faced today from a housekeeping perspective in the vacation rental world?
Well, I think it's elevated the products that we use. People have now, we're paying more attention to sanitization and disinfection. I think it's great that a lot of companies are getting rid of the 1960s bedspread that are still sitting on some of the beds and going with a triple sheet duvet or a coverlet, where now everything can be laundered that comes off the bed. I think it's helped reduce the amount of clutter in some of the properties. And I also think it's also helped companies realize that, we do need to focus on cleaning professionals, and we do need to look at the pay. We do need to look at some of these things that we're doing to ensure that we have good cleaners.
Great. And as we wrap up, what's one of your big goals or opportunities you want to accomplish in 2021?
Oh, that's a really good question. I'm at a loss, and here's why. I just finished one of my great personal goals of completing an advanced degree. I just received my MBA in hospitality.
Wow.
And that has been my focus for the past 2.5 years. So now that that's done, I find myself with all this reading and all these other things that I want to do. So what is my goal? My goal would have to be, I want to be a better business person. I have an opportunity here in Seabrook with some staff and work that I'm doing here to help me apply and fine tune some of the things I've been talking about. But it's how do I be a better leader? I think that's the long way of getting to it. I want to be a better leader, and I'm going to be a better leader through reading and through applying and through making mistakes and apologizing when I do make mistakes, and allowing people to succeed around me.
That's great.
I've got to let go. I find
no need to apologize when mistakes happen. They happen to everybody.
Well, I made a pretty bad one yesterday. I had to go back and apologize to my staff because I said some things I shouldn't have. So I had to go back and fix it.
So Durk, is there anything else that we didn't cover that you'd like to cover? And how can people contact you or learn more about some of the work you do?
Yeah. So I would say that, look at how you're training your staff. Again, I'm talking as an employee. When you bring your cleaning professionals in, look at your training. Are you covering the safety? Are you covering your standard property appearance? Are you covering your cleaning process? Are you covering the importance that the cleaners play in the guest experience? I'm an advocate and a believer that housekeepers or cleaning professionals are memory makers. They are an integral part of the memories that are made in the properties they clean, even though the guest or the occupant may never see them. And so I would want to make sure that my staff, that the cleaners or housekeepers know that they're memory makers. I would also say that, do something kooky and crazy. I would do something, whether it's the golden toilet brush, have a traveling award. I would love to get a 6-foot bowling trophy and have that passed around to people as a traveling award. As far as being able to contact me, the best way is my email address, and that's durk@housekeepingst.com.
Great. Durk, thanks for your time today. Great discussion. I appreciate it. And
you're welcome. Thanks for
hearing from you. Thanks.
Thanks for having me, Eric. Appreciate it. Bye.
Thank you for listening to Safer VR's podcast with Eric Thibodeau. If you enjoy this, I would love you to join my Facebook group, The Safer Vacation Rentals, for more of the same. You can also join our email list at www.safervrs.com.